very important to understand that critical theory in the formal sense, the so-called Frankfurt School, which would be all of these names that I mentioned, we have, well, we don't have to name them all again. They definitely were in the modernist frame. They were definitely concerned with truth. They were definitely concerned with falsity. They were just saying that those aren't enough. We need to add another layer of analysis that adds in liberation as a concept. And they were very clear that emancipation and liberation were the ideas that, and what you're being emancipated or liberated from is these systems of oppression that are created by the hegemonic cultural powers in society. And so the postmodernists would have generally rejected this, and there is a tension there. But what happened is in the 1980s, and we could draw the lines from people like Herbert Marcuse if we wanted, through Angela Davis, one of his mentees, I think UC Davis, UC something anyway. Angela Davis is obviously even active today. She's very prominent. She's being profiled in popular publications like Vanity Fair and things. I think I saw just the other day with her. And she was one of Marcuse's students. She said that Marcuse radicalized her, as a matter of fact. And she went on to inform much of what was happening in Black feminism. Meanwhile, feminism in general was picking up postmodernism so they could break down the idea of gender as a social construct. And so all of a sudden you have these two ideas kind of in the same area. And in the 80s, mostly getting toward the late 80s, you started to have these discussions from a variety of different people. Mary Poovey within feminism, for example, Bell Hooks and Kimberly Crenshaw within the kind of Black feminism going into critical race theory analysis. And what they were saying is that postmodern tools are very useful for breaking down, to deconstruct, in fact, the fundamentals of systemic power, which was that critical objective. But they go too far. And I think the key observation is that at some point, these Black feminists hit upon the idea, and I want to stress for everybody, if they don't know, Black feminism is a school of thought. I'm not referring to feminists who happen to be Black. It's a different thing. It is a particular school of thought. They hit upon the idea that when you have the experience of systemic oppression, say by racism, you could only possibly deconstruct a concept like race that's a site of systemic oppression if you have the privilege to think that that doesn't matter. And so all of a sudden, the original postmodernists became privileged white guys, and that was, why they were blind to this critical level of analysis. And they kind of shoehorned the things together by saying the one thing that cannot be deconstructed, and in some sense, then the one thing that's objectively real, is this oppressor versus oppressed paradigm, wherein various types of identity create or are sites of systemic oppression. That must be set aside from deconstruction. And then what deconstruction is properly used for is to deconstruct the roots of the systemic power, to take apart the systems of power themselves, but not everything. And that's where you end up getting this fusion that in the book we call applied postmodernism.